All right, so today's lesson, today's video, your actual homework lesson is going to be over factoring trinomials. So the first thing I want you to notice is that your assignment has, I've got some problems circled. These are the ones that I'm going to do with you. And then on the back of your worksheet, I actually drew some factor boxes. I know that most of you guys like the slide and divide method, but I wanted to make sure that I've given you the opportunity to use factor boxes if you wanted. All right, so let's see. Factoring trinomials. Remember, our test is on Thursday, so I want to make sure that we're ready for this. Make sure that we're ready. So our first example is going to be to factor by grouping. Factor by grouping. And I know that because this has 4 terms. This polynomial has 4 terms. So the first thing that I'm going to do is group this. I'm going to group it and I'm going to look for the greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor of my first binomial is x squared. The greatest common factor of my second binomial is 8. Remember, my leading coefficient is negative, so I want to take out a negative 8. So when I take the x squared out, I have x squared times, let's see, 3x cubed divided by x squared is 3x, and negative x squared divided by x squared is negative 1. Then I'm going to take out my negative 8. Negative 24x divided by negative 8 is a positive 3x, and a positive 8 divided by a negative 8 is a negative 1. So GCF plus the GCF is your first term. Second term is your twin. Okay. So examples 2 and 3. So number 2 and number 3 are also going to be factored by grouping. Number 2 and number 3 are also going to be factored by grouping. I will tell you that number 3 contains a GCF, and I will make number 4 optional. Number 4 is optional extra credit. Okay. All right, let's move to the next one. Number 5. So when I look at number 5 has 4x squared minus 36. So this has 2 terms. And it has a GCF. I can take a 4x out of both of my terms. So when I do that, I have 4x. Let's see, 4x squared divided by 4x is just x, and negative 36x divided by 4x is negative 9. So the only way that I'm able to factor this is just by taking out a GCF. The same will be true for example number 6. You can only take out a GCF. Number 7. Let's take a look at number 7. So number 7, I'm going to do with you. This is a trinomial. And A does not equal 1. There's also no GCF. So that just means I have to choose a method. I'm going to go ahead and use the slide and divide method. So when I slide, and when I multiply by 9, I get n squared plus 37n plus 270. So let's think about this. I have to come up with 2 numbers that I can multiply together to get 270, that when I add them, I get 37. Well, that's probably going to be 10 and 27. So n plus 10 times n plus 27. But now I need to divide. I've already done the slide, and now I need to divide. So I have to divide both terms by 9. Well, let's see. 9 does not divide 10 nicely, so that's going to come out front. in front of the n, 9n plus 10. But the second term, 27, is divided nicely by 9. 27 divided by 9 is 3. So this is how question number 7 factors. So you are going to do number 8. So number 8, hence, let's see, this is a trinomial. 8 does not equal 1. So you're going to have to either use the slide and divide method, or you can use one of the boxes on the back. Okay, so you are responsible for number 8. Let's take a look at number 9. When I take a look at number 9, I see that number 9 has a trinomial. A does not equal 1, but it does contain a GCF. So trinomial, A does not equal 1, but it does contain a GCF. So let's see, my GCF is 5. My GCF is 5. So I'm going to take a 5 out of every term. I'm going to drive that all the way down to the binomials because I don't want to forget about it. So 25b squared divided by 5 is 5b squared. 70b divided by 5 is 14b. And 120 divided by 5 is 24. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to slide. That gives me b squared plus 14b minus 120 because 5 times 24 is 120. So I need to come up with two numbers that when I multiply them together, I get 120. But when I add them, I get a positive 14. So probably one is going to end up being positive and one will end up being negative. So let's see. I'm thinking that probably I'm going to use the positive number 20 and negative 6. Because I know 2 times 6 is 12. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Add a 0. So let's see. I have b plus 20 times b minus 6. 20 minus 6 is 14. I have to divide both terms by 5. I have to divide both terms by 5. 20 divided by 5 is 4, so that gives me b plus 4. Negative 6 does not divide nicely, so that's going to give me 5b minus 6. 5b minus 6. So I will tell you that question number 10 also contains a GCF, and so does question number 11. So for these two questions, you need to choose one. Choose one of them to solve. If you decide to do number 12, which is optional, number 12 is optional. If you get it correct, if you get it correct, you can get extra credit for this one. Okay, so number 12 is optional. So you get to choose. Do you want to do number 10 or number 11? Okay. Number 13 contains a GCF. That GCF is 20n. That GCF is 20n. So when I take out my 20n, I'm left with n plus 2. This is the only way that you can factor this. This is the only way that you can factor this. Number 18, another trinomial where a does not equal 1. A does not equal 1. I would like you to do this one. So you need to complete this one. Okay, you're going to complete number 14. Number 15. Number 15. Let's see. Number 15 contains a GCF, and it's currently looking like the difference of two squares. So let's see. If I were to divide both of these by 4, take my 4 down, Let's see, 36p squared divided by 4 is 9p squared. And negative 400 divided by 4 is negative 100. So when I look at these, I see that I have a difference of 2 squares. So I know that I can take the square root of my first term and the square root of my second term. The square root of 9p squared, well, that's 3p. The square root of 100, that's 10. I want to join 1 with a plus and 1 with a minus. 1 with a plus and 1 with a minus. Number 16, another A does not equal 1, contains a GCF, also going to be extra credit. So this is another one of the optional. This one is optional. Number 17, I am going to do with you. So the first thing I want you to notice is that you have a y squared at the end. So I'm just going to ask you to ignore the y's, and we are going to add them in the end unto the last terms of each binomial. Okay. Sometimes it just gets to be too much. So we're just going to ignore those. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a GCF, and I have a GCF of 5. I can take a 5 out of everything. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to factor out a 5. And when I do that, I have 25x squared minus 40x plus, let's see, 5 will go into 80 16 times. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to use my slide and divide. 25 times 16, that gives me x squared minus 40x plus 400. So I'm looking for two numbers that I can multiply together to get 400, but when I add them, I get negative 40. So let's see. What about negative 20 and negative 20? Negative 20 times negative 20 is a positive 400. Negative 20 added to negative 20 is negative 40. So this is going to be x minus 20 times x minus 20. But don't forget, I need to divide both of my factors by 25. I'm going to write this as a reduced fraction. X minus, let's see, 20 divided by 25, that's 4/5 times x minus 4/5. Well, 4 does not divide nicely by 5, so we're going to slide that back out in front. So that gives me 5x minus 4. They're both going to be 5x minus 4. So I'm going to write that as 5x minus 4, the quantity squared. Now, don't forget that we need to add a y back in here. So we're going to add our y. So really, when this is factored all of the way, this becomes 5 times the quantity, 5x minus 4, the quantity squared. Okay, so I would like you to do number 18. So you're going to complete number 18. And I'm going to ask you to complete number 20. So a couple of things. Both of these, so this one has a GCF of 5. And when you get, and I want you to ignore the y's, right? Ignore the y's. But when you take out your GCF, then you have a equals 1. The same thing with number 20. This has a GCF of 2. And when you take out your GCF, you're going to end up with a term a equals 1. Again, on this one, I want you to ignore the y's till the very end. We're going to make number 19 optional. Number 19 is optional and extra credit. So I'm going to go back through and highlight all of the questions that are optional. So number 16 is also optional extra credit. Number 12, optional extra credit. Number 4, optional extra credit. And then I will highlight the problem numbers of the ones that you need to do. So you need to complete number 2 and number 3. You need to complete number 6 and number 8. And then you need to complete number 10 or number 11. This is a choose one. So number 10 or number 11. You're completing number 14. You're completing number 18. And you're completing number 20. You should be able to get that done in class today. You should be able to get that done in class. Okay. I know that your worksheet goes all the way down to 21 through 24. We're going to save these. We're going to save these to complete on Wednesday when I return. We're going to save these until Wednesday.